voice in the distance, the lamb that was slain. My soul had no song that night that I couldn't pay. When I needed a hero, you came and you saved me.
We've been going through Joshua, and my last, just studying through Joshua has been really, really good for me this week, because it was really speaking to me, speaking to me in particular. My off day is Monday. Like I have one off day. That day is Monday, and so and to be honest, sometimes I feel like I'm living for Monday. You know, I feel like, God has asked me to do some amazing things. He's allowed me to bless people, help people, love people, care for them. So many things that he's asked me and he has given me to do, and go into this world and with my family and help and love them and care for them. He's asked me to do some amazing things, but sometimes, man, all the things that God has asked me to do and the work that's out there sometimes gets overwhelming, And I'm like, God, I can't wait for Monday, right? So sometimes I live like I'm just going from Monday to Monday, and it seems like sometimes during the week it's really long. It's going and it feels like it never, like the day starts and it's 8 and then I'm like, man, it's been 7 hours. I look at the clock and it's 10, but then Monday comes and I'm like, yes, it's Monday. And I go and I do this and I wake up at 6 in the morning. I'm like, yes, I get up, I brush my teeth and it's 9 p.m. I'm like, where did my Monday go? Where does anyone ever feel like that? Yeah. Yes, anyone, you feel like that? Yeah, you know why I know you feel like that? Because Sunday you come in and sometimes they're like trying to keep this aisle's already closed. This other aisle, they're trying to keep it open. They're like, yeah, I need to, and I see the rest also that you need. And I think usually what's happening is I'm just like, God, I feel the war. I feel what you've asked us to do. I feel even when we go out into the world and I'm just talking to people. I'm like, I feel what you asked me to do, but sometimes I just feel like I need some rest. And I love Joshua, because Joshua, we've been going through the Old Testament. We're now in the book of Joshua, and Joshua talks about how God purposes his people and says, you're going to be my people. You're going to go into this land of Canaan. You're going to take it over. You're going to come in. You're going to come in and create colonies in this area, and then you're going to represent me here. And so as he goes and he's saying, I want you to go do this, it's a lot of work. And there are different areas that he's like, there's a lot of work. But in this part that we're going to go through today, God comes and he says, but once you're finished, I'm going to give you rest. And that's a place that I think we should look forward to. And so what I want to do is I just want to go through what was going on during that time, and then talk about what helped to usher in that rest. For all those who raised their hand and said, man, I feel that way at times, what helps to bring about that rest? So can we do that today? All right, first I want to talk to you a little bit about Joshua. The book of Joshua, they were going into the land of Canaan, and they were going to take it over so that they can create community there and represent God in that place. But when they went in, a lot of times because the book of Joshua starts with the area of Jericho, where they went into Jericho, and we think this is where they started taking over this area. But in fact, they started way over here. They were coming from way over here in the corner. They came over this way, and they started taking over this land of Canaan here before they crossed over the River Jordan into Jericho to take over this land and represent God here. Now, before they crossed over Jericho and they took over this land, Joshua and God told the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half of Manasseh, he says, I want you to create community in this area. Before we even go over into the rest of the land that we're going to go in, you're going to show my might, you're going to show my power in this land. Before you go over into that land, I want you and your wives, your children of the warriors and things, I want them to come in and just create a colony in this area. And then he says to them, you're still, as the warriors, you're still going to go into the other area and help your brothers out. But I want your people to stay back here because this is going to be your land. And so they actually go into this land. So when the rest of the men, they go over and they cross the Jordan, what they're doing is they're going to fight for their brothers because they already have their land. But then he promises them, he says, after you're done, after you're done, I'm going to give you rest. And this is an important thing because I love this teaching because of the talking about rest. And here's basically what it says, what God says to Manasseh, Gad, and the Reubenites as they're getting ready to go into the rest of the land to represent God and his power and take over the land. He says, I want your people, the rest of your people, to wait here, and they're going to wait here for you. And then when you're done, I'm going to give you rest. Here's what it says. In Joshua chapter 1, I want to ask you to open your Bibles for me. Joshua chapter 1, verse 12 through 17. If you don't have a Bible, there should be a Bible in the chair in front of you. You can pull it out, open that to page 213. 213. We're going to go, when you get there, let me hear you say, boom, shakalaka. If you're not there, say, wait. Okay, we'll wait for you. We'll wait for you. All right? All right, someone said, okay. All right, good. We're good. Okay, here's how it starts. It says, but to the Reubenites, the Gadites, the half tribe of Manasseh, Joshua said, remember the command Moses, the servant of the Lord, gave you after he said, the Lord your God will give you rest by giving you this land. And he was pointing out that land that we had given him, on the east of the Jordan. He said, I've given you this land. You will receive rest and by giving you this land. He says, your wives, your children, your livestock may stay in the land that Moses gave you, east of the Jordan. But all your fighting men ready for battle must cross over ahead of your fellow Israelites. You are to help them until the Lord gives them rest, as he has done for you. And until they too have taken possession of the land the Lord your God has given them. After that, you may go back and occupy your own land, which Moses, the servant of the Lord, gave you east of the Jordan toward the sunrise. Now, then they answered Joshua, whatever you commanded us, we will do. And wherever you send us, we will go. Just as we fully obeyed Moses, so we will obey you. Only may the Lord your God be with you as he was with Moses. And so this is the time where God actually commanded them. He says, I want you, here's the place that you're going to rest, but I need you to look forward to that. But before you get to your rest, I need you to do some things for me. I need you to grab hold of some things. I need you to go to, in this case, he's like, I need you to go to war for me. But the whole time they're out there and they're going to war, they're doing different things, they're taking over certain lands. They're probably looking back the whole time going, I can't wait until Monday. Do you know what I mean? Yes? The whole time they're probably looking back going, I can't wait to get back to a place that God promised us we would receive rest. You know? And they're looking forward to that. They're looking forward to it. And they're going, man, my wife's back there, my children, my family. I can't wait to that time. Now, I think this is a really good place for us because I think we as people, I ask you, how many of you feel like that? Many of you raised your hand. And a lot of us, sometimes you're in like a job that you're sitting there and you're looking at this job. See, people are smiling, laughing. You're in this job where you're looking, you're going, man, you're feeling like you're going to war every day. You know? You feel like you're going to war every day and there's no semblance of God there. And you're like, man, God's like, I need you to represent me here. And you're like, oh, I'm going to, and every day you're looking for you can't wait until your off day comes. Or till vacation comes, or till and every day you're like, God, I just need rest from this place. You know? There's things that happen. I look at these guys and they're out there and they're fighting and they're looking back going, God, please give us rest. And I think we as a people sometimes go through that where we're even in relationships we're in relationships where we're like, God, can there be some peace and rest in this relationship? You know? God, I need rest. You know? I even think sometimes inside of our own heads, in our own hearts, there's things in turmoil going on inside of us. That we're at war, even inside of our own head. And you're like, God, I need rest from this. God, I need you. I see this as Joshua and him promising that rest and him looking forward to it or looking towards it and going, when is this going to come? And I see us at times being in that same position. And so we just read chapter 1. Chapter 22 is where God actually said, okay, let me give you rest. And so we're going to go to chapter 22 and we're going to read some of that because this will help us really, as we are spiritual warriors and people who love God, who are trying to follow God, this will help us understand what ushers in that rest. All right, so I'm going to ask you to go to Joshua 22, page 234, verse 1. We're going to start at verse 1. All right, if you're there, let me hear you say, boom, shakalaka. Yeah, see, you guys have so much fun with that. That's so much fun. People just they love that. All right, anyone not there? Say wait. Okay, we're still waiting. We'll wait for you.
Boom shakalaka.
Okay, boom shack. Thank you. Thank you. All right, here we go. It starts verse 1. It goes this. Then Joshua summoned, after all the stuff was done, it says Joshua summoned the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half tribe of Manasseh. And he said to them, you have done all that Moses, the servant of the Lord, commanded you, and you have obeyed me in everything. Now, I want you to do me a favor. Look up here for me. I want you to remember this verse. So look up here at this verse, chapter 2. We're going to read it together because I want you to remember this, all right? We're going to read it together. We're going to start reading. I'm going to start with and we're going to go and read this whole verse. Ready? 1, 2, 3. And said to them, you have done all that Moses, the servant of the Lord, commanded, and you have obeyed me in everything I commanded. So this is what happened. He says, you talking to the Reubenites, the Gadites, the half tribe of Manasseh, he says, it's about time for your rest. He said, you have done all that Moses, the servant of the Lord, commanded, and you have obeyed me in everything I've commanded you. He says, for a long time now, you've been doing this. Now, we just went 22 chapters, chapter 1 to chapter 22. But how long do you think they were out there fighting away from their family, waiting for their rest? A while. That's what that would be the right answer, no matter what it was, because a while. A while. What? How long? Give me some guesses.
10 years.
Someone said it. What'd you say? Say it one more time. Couple years? About 20? Someone over here? Who said 8? Okay, about 8. Anyone else? What'd you say? 10? 7? Somewhere between 15 to 20 years. Yes. That's a while, isn't it? That's why it says for a long time now. Waiting for Monday. Long time. It says for a long time now, to this very day, you have not deserted your fellow Israelites, but you have carried out the mission the Lord your God gave you. Now understand this. One of the things is, this is the big thing about this part, is that verse 2. He's like, I'm getting ready to give you something. I'm getting ready to give you rest. But here's the reason why. Because you have done all that Moses, the servant of the Lord, commanded you, and you've obeyed me in everything. And basically he's saying, you have done all that God has asked you to do there. Everything that God has asked you to do and to carry out in this place, you've done it. You could have deserted your fellow Israelites and went back to the land that you already had, but you didn't. You could have done that, but you didn't. You've done everything we've asked you. Now here comes rest for you. And so here's the rest of it. It says, now the Lord your God has given them rest as he promised. Return to your homes in the land that Moses, the servant of the Lord, gave you on the other side of the Jordan. He's like, I need you to go and rest. And he says here, and here's what rest is for them. It's they still need to represent God in that place, but they're no longer fighting. So it reminds them, you may not be fighting, but be very careful to keep the commandments and the law that Moses, the servant of the Lord, gave you, to love the Lord your God, to walk in obedience in him, to keep his commandments, to hold fast to him, and to serve him with all your heart and with all your soul. And Joshua blessed them and sent them away to their homes. And so this is where they went, and they had that, they were given that rest. And the reason why they were given that rest is because they did all of what God had asked them. And they had obeyed him in everything. And I think sometimes we're crying out to God and we're like, God, please get me out of this job. Get me out of this place and do this for me. And God's like, I will when you've done all I've asked you to do there. I know you're sitting there thinking that there's no semblance of God here. There's no place where people love God. That's why you're there. You're the light. And if there's only one, there's still light there. But if you're not, then there's no light there. I know you're crying out for rest, and I will give it to you once you have done all I've asked in that place. And the question is, we have to ask ourselves, God, what is it that you want me to do in this place? It's the same thing we see in relationships. And we're like, God, we're waiting on God to make some changes that we can get peace and rest and make changes in others for us. And God, you need to do this. And God's like, I will do some things when you have done all the things I've asked you to do there. When you have done all the things I've asked you to do, then there will be peace and rest. But a lot of times we're talking and people are talking and we will say to one another in those relationships, well, I'm not perfect, and then start pointing out everything. God's like, well, if you're not in that place where you're trying that perfection and working on those things that you say I'm not perfect in, then you've not done everything I've asked you to do there. And once you've done all of what I've asked you to do there, I hear testimonies at times of couples who felt like they were not going to make it, and they fought like cats and dogs. And eventually they got to a place where they said, you know what? I'm just going to do what God asked me to do and just love you the way God has asked, and stop trying to change you, stop trying to make. And then later on you hear them saying, man, we're at the best place we've ever been. You say, well, what happened? I did what God asked me to. I just did what he asked me to. I stopped worrying about doing all these other things and changing, and I just did what God asked me to. The same thing, man. And this is many of you out here today. inside there's some turmoil going on, and just God is actually trying to give you rest, but you won't let yourself rest. Yeah, you're laughing because you know it to be true. And there's burdens inside of you that feel like I always have to be doing something. I always have to be here. I have to get here. I have to do this. I have to make sure I'm doing this. Otherwise, someone who called me lazy in the past, I want to be this lazy person is this. I need to. And God's like, give that to me. Because I have rest for you. But you have to do what I'm asking you to do and give that to me. I love this part of Joshua because he's like, man, he's telling his people, I have rest for you. If and when you do all of what I've asked you to do, there's rest there. And I think this is a place where we, as God's people, definitely need to hear that, because there's truly a spiritual war going on, and sometimes we can feel the war, and it becomes so burdensome. We're asking the question, God, when will there be rest? And God's like, when you've done all I've asked, when you haven't deserted your fellow brothers and sisters out there who need you, when you haven't walked away from them, when you've done all I've asked you to do in that place, you've represented me well, you've told those people about me, you've loved those who are the unlovable, you've given in places that I've asked you to give. When you get there, rest will come. And there'll be a peaceful time of representing me. But first you have to get to that place. There's a scripture that in Matthew chapter 11, I want you to open your Bibles to that for me. Chapter 11, we're going to read verse 28 through 29. Page 976 if you're in the Bible, from underneath the chair. Matthew chapter 11. When you're there, give me a... Oh, come on. Come on. Come on. If you're there, just give me a boom. All right, good. If you're not, let me hear you say wait. I heard a wait, so we're going to wait for him. Be in unity. All right. Whoever said wait, are you there now? Boom. All right, good. Here's what he says. This is Jesus. He's saying, this is what we understand. He says, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you. And I want you to understand this. When he says, take my yoke upon you, the yoke is the work. You know, it's not he didn't say, take my bench in a cool breeze upon you. He's like, take my work. Do what I've asked you to do. He says, take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I'm gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. It's like, do the work that I've asked you to do. Learn from me. Do the things that I've asked you to do, and you will find rest. For those who are feeling that burden and feeling that weariness, for those who are in places and you don't want to blink too long, long because you might fall asleep because those things are going on. When you're in the battle, in the middle of the battle, and you're seeing the battle in your lives, in your relationships, at your job, outside, in your neighborhood, you're seeing the battle every day and you're tired in that way. Stop saying, God, why? And just say, God, what is it that you want me to do here? Help me understand what you're asking me to do here, that I may finish the work that you have asked me to do. Help me to not look for the rest until I've finished what you've asked me to do. Because we will receive rest when that work is done. And I don't know about you, but when I was reading this and going through that, I was just like, man, God, you're right. There's so much that you're asking me to do that I have not. And there's so many things that even that you've asked me to do that I've said I don't like. And because I don't like it, I haven't done it well. And I need to do what you've asked me to do. I'm asking for rest and I haven't done the work. Yeah. When I was younger, my father used to say to me, I would go to work with him. He would always get me up in the morning and say, let's go to work. And I was like, oh, Dad, I don't want to go. But we go anyway. And I get there and I say, we'd be there for like 20 minutes. I say, Dad, I need some water. He said, you haven't earned water yet. I said, Dad, I need some food. He was like, you haven't earned that yet. We ate before we left. You haven't earned. And really what I was saying is I don't want to work. I want to find something to do other than work. But he'd say, man, if we get this work, we'll eat and then we'll rest. But the work got to be done first.
I am now 11 years old.
Me and my unit are here today.
Because God,
my
hero,
saved our life.
saved my life.
Whoa. Healer, deliverer, protector, provider.